Thanks. Good afternoon, Boxer. Hi, Uday. So I pasted the agenda into the chat as usual. You should see it there pinned. This is the proposed agenda. Marcus, you're joining us as an observer. Was there anything you would like us to consider as part of the agenda?
Well, if you ask, I did not expect the question. So on surprise a little bit, or not on surprise, just randomly today, I had to see, or someone asked me about a Catalyst funded project. It is a blockchain security thing. Let me quickly check the names. And I wondered about progress and so on. So it is a dashboard build. Just a second. I will have it hopefully quickly here. No, sorry, I will write it in the chat, the name and what I need. But the thing is, I wondered if someone like the technical steering committee is aware of it and could give it a look in order to understand if Sebastian White Checkpoint. And who knows about what they work on or what they have built in and how it is used then. So like, is there a committee looking at it, watching at it, using it, because it requires some email address to log in? So who gives credential, who maintains this, and what kind of signatures or signs of a potential attack are defined therein? How is it updated? How it is maintained?
Let's aim to give you a few minutes at the end of the agenda, Marcus, if there's time.
Yep. I mean, this would also easily have place or with some preparation for next week's or something later on. It doesn't need to be discussed today.
Okay, so we could consider it in a future meeting, and you've just raised the issue with us. Great. Thank you very much. Were there items that any other member of the committee would like to add to the agenda? Anything which needs to be prioritized? I'll take that as a no. So welcome to the Technical Steering Committee meeting of the 21st of January 2026. First item we have on the agenda, as usual, is to consider the actions from the last meeting. So I'll hand over to Bosco to quickly run through those.
Yeah, sure, but I could swear that I saw them somewhere and I cannot find them right now. Can you give me the link, Kevin? I was like, I don't know how
I will need to go back to the Slack channel to find them.
I'm going through the channel and I can't, so I don't know how, but I'm missing them somewhere.
Okay, you pasted them immediately after, so you're efficient, and you pasted them immediately after the last meeting.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Just give me a sec. I will be quick.
Okay, so let's see. Is Alex on the call? No. But first item referred to Alex, and I checked with Alex about the blog on the Constitution Committee, so we can take that off. Second item, I put a brief item on the agenda. Neil and I contacted the Intersect executive, and the update that we have is the report, the chain incident partition report, will be published by the end of this week. So
that's the intent.
That's the intention.
And yeah, any unmodified or modified?
To be confirmed, Neil. I would propose that we apply any typographical corrections.
Yeah.
The executive was proposing to provide a list of recommendations. I don't think these should come from the working group. So if there are recommendations, it should be clear that they're not working group recommendations.
But just want to say that I was told that the new version of it, so adjusted version, with the future recommendation will be available, will be shared in the working group channel prior to making it public.
That's okay, Bosco. The question is simply over the source. So there's a difference between the working group making recommendations and another group making recommendations that are included in the report. We need to make it clear. But if there are recommendations, these have not been discussed by the working group.
Yeah, I think but the point is the working group's been disbanded, right? And therefore, there's no meetings of it happening. Therefore, we have to clearly say if the board says something, it's the board that's saying this, not us.
Or the executive.
Or the executive, whoever does it, right? What we're trying to say is if they had turned around and read it and given some feedback, we could have incorporated that feedback while it was being written. But they're not. That's not the way they're working. They're saying they're publishing it, so therefore they can't masquerade as the working group. That's the point, right? Just a clear authorship question.
Great. So we'll deal with things that way, Bosco. Okay. As Neil says, it's important to be clear who is saying what and why.
Yeah, but again, I just don't know exactly what the changes or additions will be, so I just cannot judge at this point. And
as I said, any changes are not being made by the working group.
true.
Okay, so we can close off that item from the agenda. Ryan, there was an item. This Ryan Kokorin, was an item for you.
Yeah, so I'm still working on getting the actual numbers for how many smaller pools would be made viable by raising K to 1,000. So we have the numbers for how many pools would be affected by the change, and also how much stake would be affected. I still need to finish doing the math on how much of that would move to smaller pools. So there's a couple different categories of smaller pools. There's like the 873 in the viability threshold as defined by the IOR report. So I'll use that category, but I think there's also like, if you go all of them under 3 million ADA, I think it's more like 1,200 pools. So I'll break it up both ways.
Right.
But yeah, I'm still working on that.
Okay, so we can come back to that in a future meeting. We met to discuss the KPIs. We'll come back to that on the main agenda. We had an action to review the 2025 research and technology validation reports that Fergie provided to us. Were they copied to the Slack channel? I don't remember seeing the links to those. But if we're going to review them, we need links to the reports. I haven't reviewed them. Has anyone else reviewed them? So if not, let's hold that forward and include that as an item for future discussion. I don't think it's not something where it's critical to provide immediate feedback, but giving timely feedback is helpful, of course. Hopefully, so the next item was record, take a copy of the chain incident report. So that was just for people's personal records. So hopefully you've done that. Then you need to follow up on it. I have organised a session to progress the TSC operational budget based on the answers to the Doodle poll. We'll hold that at 4 p.m. This afternoon as an initial call. It obviously won't be a final call. It will just get us kicked off and get things moving. I've included an agenda item that we do seem now to have quite a lot of other things to discuss in this session. And Bosco, you were going to reconcile, you're proposing to move the Harvard working group time from next week to
Uh,
after the weekly release meeting?
yeah, so I was having a conversation with Jess from IOE, and she agreed to have it on Thursdays. So sometime today, I will move it to next Thursday instead of next Tuesday, and we will use it as is from now on. So it will be Thursdays instead of Tuesdays for the time being.
So sync up with us on the timing of that. Also,
Mhm.
there are other meetings that happen on Thursday that we need to avoid.
Aha, okay, I will take a look. I will take a look.
Thank you. And thank you, Marcus, for making a note of that. Great, that covers off the actions from last meeting. Second item on the agenda was feedback on the 2030 vision KPIs and plans. So I'm going to propose that Leandro leads that discussion. Leandro, you put together a document that was extremely helpful. You presented at the product committee yesterday. Neil, Ryan, and I were also there and participated in the discussion with them. But Leandro, let me hand over to you.
Yeah, it was very well received by the product committee. They seem to be in agreement with a lot of our points. They really liked that we recommended other alternative KPIs that make sense to us. And the request is that we present more KPIs that would make us happy, as long as numbers that would make us happy. So during the week, I'll get feedback from everyone who have more ideas of KPIs we could attack and values we should be targeting for. I will make them part of our recommendations.
Great, thanks, Leandro. Ryan or Neil, anything you wanted to add? We had a very in-depth discussion about the KPIs, and we had an open discussion with the product committee about those, and they aligned with those.
Yeah, I had a lot of opinions, but I was unfortunately double dipping in meetings, so I tried to stay active in chat as much as I could. But I put together a whole pull request of kind of restructuring the document, and I explained it all in that pull request. I could share that. I could share the link to that if anyone was curious to read through that.
Yeah, okay, you got it.
That would be great. Thank you. So one of the asks from us seems to be that the product committee are passing. They want to pass the buck to us. They want us to take ownership of the KPIs. So the question for this group is whether that's appropriate. I pointed out that, well, actually, you really need the people with the vision who develop the vision to explain the requirements. Whilst we can have technical perspective, and we assist with developing the KPIs, actually saying these are the important to the community. I don't believe this group, but Neil.
Okay, I think there's a way of splitting this up. Okay, there's a lot of background noise from your place. Okay, that's good. Sorry. So I think the way we could structure this is they could have the aspirational requirements, right? So the point is, and then the aspirational stuff, we're going to be this, we're going to be that. So they can have that, and then they can agree that, and we can then refine this into qualitative and quantitative terms, more qualitative terms, which they can then go back. Like I actually do this as a consultant. I have an acronym for it. It's called AREA, and basically the idea is you start from aspirations, you turn them into requirements, and we put numbers on those requirements in agreement with them. Yeah, to do that. So and. Now, I'm sure this is going to cause, this will of course be, if we take it that way, then what we're helping is the product people turn it into deliverable things, as opposed to setting the direction. Yeah. That should avoid certain quarters being upset with us. That's what I'm saying.
I'm on the exact same page as Neil with this. I think a lot of the aspirational requirements. So what I did in that pull request is I restructured it. So all of the aspirational stuff is in the vision. All of the deliverables are in the strategy and the roadmap. There's long-term and short-term deliverables. And then I also made a tagging system so that we could tag the strategy and roadmap items to the aspirational effects to make sure that they're being met. But that way we have them, they could be measured and they could be actionable on two different spectrums.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So the approach I tend to is aspirations, requirements, execution, and assurance. Right. So I think what we should be doing here is there are three things that we can't do the execution, but what we can do is how. So a part of setting up the requirements is how we will assure them in the end. So what would success look like as part of that KPI, right? And I tend to call about what would it smell like as opposed to what it looked like, because often you never get what you want, but does it smell in the right area? That makes sense. That's the way I would structure this. That would then give people a lot more to push back against. Well, no, actually, I don't think it will push back against it. It'll basically make it easier to spot inconsistencies and to hold people's feet to the fire if they don't deliver.
So one of the things that wasn't clear to me, Neil, is what was really being aimed at. So I noticed, Leandros, you sort of picked us on the numbers and said, well, this puts us at this position relative to other blockchains. And one of the things which is not articulated is, are we trying, what are we trying to do in terms of Cardano, in terms of its long-term sustainability and positioning with respect to other blockchains? Are we trying to make it the most used blockchain? Are we trying to position it with as a blockchain which is competitive at a number 3 position? I mean, what is the goal here overall? And it seems that people are just picking numbers.
So I think if once we've gone through this once, then would be the time to have that conversation, right? Because then you'll be able to turn around and say, if you want that statement to become true, then these KPIs would have to be met in this way, right?
Exactly, and you can track progress against.
And so, and if you split the KPIs into threshold, target, and stretch, right? Then you're saying, in order to be that, we'd have to hit this stretch target, this stretch target, this stretch target. Are you with me? You can then turn it round, and then they can say, oh, perhaps we don't want to aim to be that because we might fail. So let's say it this way instead, right? This is this is daily bread and butter when working with large corporations, because no one wants to be seen to fail, but everybody wants everything to be solid and metriced and evidence-based, until of course they don't.
Yeah. So you Leandros, in your feedback, I think you raised the point of accountability. So when people are setting KPIs in large organizations, there are people who are accountable for delivering the KPIs, and there are rewards for achieving them and punishment for not achieving them. At least that's the theory. It may not always.
I was about to say, you could say that, I couldn't possibly comment, but yes, right. The point is, I think we're going to have to. That's going to be difficult to do in this organization, because I don't know how you do that, because there's no effective. In order to do that, someone would have to have decision and authority, some sort of authority, and that would be. I think that's going to be a bit difficult to do this round. Let's look for that for next year. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether KPIs as defined are strictly the right way to do things, because
I think KPI is the wrong term here, but we can have that conversation. That's what people. There's a whole bunch of other PLAs used in this area that maybe, some of which may be more significantly better fit. But let's make some progress. Let's not try and change the whole document. Is what I'm trying to say, right? Or change because I mean, people are not used to doing this. That's what I'm saying.
So what I'm hearing from the group, and I like confirmation from this, is that we agree that we should take some form of ownership of the KPIs. We should not take complete ownership of the KPIs, and we should work with the product committee to progress this. And it sounds, Leandros, it sounds like you, Ryan, you would be well placed to take that activity forward. Is that fair?
Okay,
Yeah.
good. We'll help. And I would say we're responsible for the refinement of them, right? But that's all we're responsible for. We're not responsible for the assurance of them. I.e., did they actually happen, right? Etc. Because that's outside our remit. Because when we don't have any authority to do that.
So formally, what we're doing here is to, because this is not just a short-term action. This is a medium-term action. I think what we're formally doing is probably to construct a new working group with a fixed scope.
No, and I think I would suggest this becomes it's something that sits at the boundaries of working groups that they can refer to as a definitive statement. The real problem is the action. I don't want to form yet another working group. Let's see, please. I think we can do this, create the information that sits at the boundary, and then we can work out if people work to that information, autonomously work to it. They don't need to be forced to work to it by yet another working group.
Okay, so Neil's voting against a working group. Anyone?
I'm voting against a working at this point. That's what I'm saying, right?
So-
I have
Any other opinions, for or against? Or is everyone completely neutral? Well, if there are no opinions, I think we take Neil's suggestion. We don't form a working group. We simply delegate ownership to Leandros and Ryan. You work out how to progress this. You work out what is needed and do something sensible and involve other members of the committee. Keep the other members of the committee involved as necessary on that. But you've done. Thank you for the great job that you've done so far. It's very, very helpful, and I think we can get some good progress. I suspect that we'll need this done fairly quickly because that we need or at least some version of this done fairly quickly because obviously we're heading into a 2026 series of funding proposals, and there will need to be some roadmap and some targets that should be aimed at. Okay. So I'm not quite sure about the timing of that. We can come back to that later, but just be aware there'll be some pressure to get things done quickly, I expect. Okay, so if there are no further issues on that, no other comments, can move forward on to the next item. Next item I was 2026 goals and objectives. So someone on the ISE proposed that committees should form their own goals and objectives. Now, I can see the value in that to some extent, but I'd be wary of setting ourselves a work program that we couldn't commit to given the resources that we have available, of course. So what I don't think you can have is something where we basically say, oh, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and if we don't have the resources, we're not going to be able to deliver on that.
Without resources, statements are wind.
We can still have some goals and objectives for the committee, but we just have to be careful about what we commit to, I would say.
Yeah, and this went down reasonably well, you know.
Some people liked it, other people didn't like it.
So
Received a mixed response, but it's worth our. I think it's worth our time considering whether we can whether we can come up with a sensible set of goals and objectives.
I assume what we've already. How is this different from our remit?
The remit defines the areas of responsibility. The goals and objectives define what we would expect to achieve concretely in 2026. Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, hop in here and share kind of like the way this works for the open source committee. So the initial document that we had is our strategy document for open source and Cardano and the whole reason why we're here. From there, that has goals and objectives, a lot of which are tied within our budget proposal that we are working through. In addition to that, there's still other goals and things that we want to get done as a committee. I would take this back even a few months to last year, right around the election time frame. We were talking about a reasonable goal for the technical steering committee. I would say that would be finding ways to be made aware of what's actually going on. Because again, we're still at a point where we're now another 3 months, another 90 days down the road. We still don't have technical working groups coming and reporting to the TSC. We still don't have their updates on the agenda if they're not reporting with a valid reason for why they're not showing up. And so, I'm going to be a little bit arbitrary here, but we're failing in that sector because you guys don't have the clear lines of sight other than, oh, hey, I got this high level update and I know this because this interacts with hard fork. So the TSC is lacking the full view of what's actually happening in the different facets of development. That's where I would focus those goals and objectives right now.
Okay, thanks, Tex. We can include, and that's in principle, it's a fairly simple thing to do. It's obviously something that takes time. You can't expect to cycle through every working group in every meeting. There are just too many of them. We have had reports from the L2 working group. That's because Sebastian sits on this group, of course. Let me be on board. If the
and the hard fork working group is reporting here, right? If anything would be relevant on the Security Council, I'm quite sure it would reach these ears here too. Parameter setting is also a common topic we have here, right? So I think the things which are dear to maybe our mission, our remit, we do keep an eye out, or that's even which kind of bring out here. Maybe you should just formalize these a bit more and kind of say our goal is to have parameter working group operational.
No, I think basically what we're saying is I think it already happens, but it happens informally. I just think if we formalize the communications to start off with, right? If we say these things report to that, and we would like them to give us an update on a monthly, or if they could update this page what they're doing, that'd be enough to get started.
Yeah, we do get feedback from the teams, Tex, from the release meeting, for example. So each of the teams is providing us with information there, and that's we're making sure that the reports get passed on. So there is general awareness, but maybe not detailed awareness of all of the developer teams. Okay, so let me take an action to. So what I'll do is I'll produce a draft set of goals and objectives. We can debate them. As is being said from the OSC, that then feeds into some operational budget that the TSC needs. So I think we can hopefully define that quite well. Christian.
Yeah, if you want to, Kevin, when we came up with the OSC strategy, we only covered 3 topic areas out of like 9.
Yeah.
So if y'all wanted to pick up some of those areas to kind of target and hammer on, that way we're kind of doing a pronged focus.
Yeah.
I'll give that to you for food for thought.
Thanks. If you pass it on, Christian, that'll be very helpful.
Where shall we? So if we have suggestions or ideas, and it's a bit vague, goals and objectives, but maybe we can post our thoughts on help you collect it. Kevin, where would you receive those?
So what I propose to do, Sebastian, is I find the best way to do this sort of thing is to construct a Google Doc that people can just write into.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to share a link, we can just dump thoughts and refine it together.
Fine. So I don't see that there's any need for deep structure. All we need to do is just to have something that people can scribble in, can write down unstructured goals and objectives, and then we can put that into something a coherent document that we agree on. So I will do that later today. Great, thank you very much. Good discussion as always. So the next item we put on the agenda was parameter updates. So Alex isn't here, I believe.
I am.
You are there, Alex. Good. I missed you when I was scanning earlier. So Alex, I've put a slot in for you and Ryan to discuss the parameter updates that are coming up and to provide any thoughts on those.
Yes. Is Ryan here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Ryan Williams.
Ah, you, Ryan.
Oh,
I thought
other
I-
Ryan.
Other
It's the
Ryan.
RW side.
Other Ryan.
Other Ryan.
You're
Yeah,
welcome to update Ryan Wiley as well.
Thanks to Ryan, we submitted the parameter change for the transaction mem units and the block mem units to mainnet. We respected the no governance December probably as the only ones. So now we are here. You may have noticed already that it's part 1 of 2. That's because there is a guardrail that prevents us from raising the parameters to the intended 25% immediately. So we do it in 2 steps. And so far we got no votes at all, which is pretty cool. And on the DREP side, I'm not afraid that we will reach consensus, but I'm currently quite afraid that SPOs don't realize that they have to vote as well, since one of the parameters in there is security parameter, and thus the constitution says SPOs need to vote as well. So we need to make a little bit of noise in that regard. Markus Kufler and the whole SPO communications team at CF is aware, and they are already rattling the bells. So at least that angle is good. And yeah, that's it. Ryan?
Yeah, so just pasted a link to the governance action, and what I'm seeing is about 21% of DREPs have voted so far, Alex, but less than 5% of SPOs have voted. So I'd reiterate your concern about SPO voting. One thing we could concretely do would be to promote this via the TSC Twitter account. So perhaps you could prepare something and we could promote that. And if you need the support of this group to help get the message over, please advise us how. So happy to go on things like X Spaces, etc., to discuss the issue, or maybe putting together some sort of recording to explain the importance of this particular parameter setting and why people should be voting on it, if that's helpful. What are your thoughts?
For now, I'm hoping that the community realizes that they need to act on this. And given that Markus sent out the newsletter this week, we have quite good contacts with most of the SPOs. I would wait another week before emergency alarms are rang, and rely on like normal distribution methods such as X posts and tweets and whatnot, word of mouth. But if, let's say, by, should we set a deadline? The TSC meeting next week or in 2 weeks, we're still underneath some SPO threshold, that we call in X Spaces.
Okay. I don't see it as doing any harm to put out a tweet that says, remind remember that that SBO should be voting on this. It's a security parameter, particularly because it's the first time that SBOs have had to vote on a parameter update, as far as I recall. And is there anything else we can do via Intersect, maybe in the development updates?
I can include it in this week's development update if you'd like.
I think we should. So I don't think we should wait to see what happens. I think we should do something preemptively and then apply further action later, Alex, if we need to.
Sure thing.
So could you take that action forward? Could you write something? You and Ryan Williams write something?
You probably even did, Ryan, right?
Yeah, I did a blog, an Intersect dedicated blog on this before Christmas, I believe in December. I wrote it, or maybe November. So we can definitely repurpose just like some of the explanation and the motivation and put that into some expos as well as the dev report again.
Brilliant. Right, so some side chat. Ryan Wiley, you're raising questions about Calidus keys.
Yeah, I was not aware. I thought that they would be able to vote with their Calidus keys, but I guess that's not possible until we have a hard fork. So I was hopeful that would help participation, but it seems that that is a blocker.
Is that one of the things which is scheduled for the protocol version 11 hard fork? Or is it going to need Dijkstra, a new era?
I'm not sure. I was asking that question myself.
It will need a new era, I believe.
I would think so too. It's a completely new key type.
Yeah, okay. So that would need a new era.
I think we discussed before, it would need a ledger SIP, first of all, to like define how to implement Calidus keys in the ledger, and then it could be moved forward for implementation.
Something that you, Ryan Wiley, could progress, maybe.
Yeah, I can add that ledger SIP to my backlog. We actually were just testing Calidus keys with Ecclesia just today and yesterday, so that is already working on pre-prod. So, but yeah, for a ledger, that definitely sounds like it needs a SIP. So I'll put that in my backlog.
Great, and sounds like Ryan Williams or maybe Marcus, you could support that. You could support Ryan Wiley in that. Great. So feel free to call on other people. Marcus is volunteering some assistance.
I have like 3 or 4 more SIPs too that I've been on the backlog. I just don't want to overwhelm the SIP editors, so try and trickle them out slowly.
It's what they've signed up for, I guess, right? Or not. Okay. So Ryan Williams, you put together a outline plan working with people like myself and Alex on the timelines for the different parameter updates. Now, my understanding is that Utah is now proposing to put in his own governance action relating to the committee min size. Do we want to discuss in this group how to deal with that? So what's the way to deal with it? Obviously, we don't want to be pushing back against community governance, but we do need to make sure things are done in a coordinated way.
Maybe it's worth just covering how the parameter committee and this group wanted to, what order of parameter changes we had planned, and then we can see how a potential update committee action being submitted soon would disrupt that. Does that make sense? I can share my screen.
Please do.
Okay, if you let me know if you can see this. So this sheet is the sheet I made for the hard fork. Sorry, move it here, it's a bit quieter. And if you go down, there is the parameter changes as we plan them. And then there's like dotted lines between them, which shows, dependency, and that, this green one references the purple one, etc. The hard fork stuff you can more or less ignore. It's obviously high level and will likely change and be delayed. But these are the parameter changes. So we submitted the proof of execution limits one. That is up for voting at the moment. And then around sometime next week, so within Epoch 609, so anytime after the 24th, we were looking to submit the polluted cost model update, which was decided to be done before the hard fork. So when the hard fork happens, people can use all the new polluted built-ins straight away. So that's why there's a dotted line here that says not dependent, but considered. So the hard fork work group will consider submitting the hard fork. We'll consider the enactment of this action around the submission. And then third in the list was the reduced committee min size. We had an interesting thing is we'd scoped it to be 3 months after the original PCP had been raised, as per the old constitution. That there had to be 3 months of off-chain discussion before a parameter change could go on chain to be constitutional. This requirement has now been relaxed in the current impending constitution that will be enacted soon. So this 3 months isn't actually required anymore, which I think why UTA is looking to submit this committee min size action, sooner, maybe, within the next coming weeks, maybe something like this. I'm not sure exactly when he was proposing.
So to stop you there, I mean, it seems to me to be a pretty serious change to the constitution, right? It was put in on the advice of the security researchers to avoid overly rapid changes on critical parameters. So I can see why some people might want to rush things, but it does seem to me that there was a good reason for the Security Council for the security researchers to put that provision in. So simply removing it does seem to be a little hazardous.
Yes. But the constitution, that constitution's been ratified. So
yeah,
it's the yeah.
Has it been voted on? When is it enacted? When does it change?
Yeah, that's a good question. It'll be enacted on the next boundary, which is the 24th.
Right. Okay. So that constitution will be enacted on the 24th. Okay. Right.
Yes.
And this doesn't require 3 months anymore.
Correct. That's my understanding. Based on
What was that properly discussed? Because we certainly weren't notified that there was going to be a change
to the security basis of the whole system.
Exactly. It wasn't discussed with the Security Council. It wasn't put to this group, right? So I would say
Yeah.
I understand that the voters might want to speed things up, but there is always a reason why delays like that are put into a system. Yeah.
Sure. I wasn't involved in the drafting myself.
Well, I think we might need to provide some commentary
Sure.
on that. Are there any other critical changes that we should be aware of? Because to be honest, I have not been tracking constitutional changes. I wasn't aware that anyone was going to put in a change to the constitution.
Yeah.
That is a bit of a surprise. Yeah.
Yes, certainly. Thomas Linsep at Intersect, I believe, is writing a blog on to try to cover like all the changes. So once that's ready, I'll share that with this group. Yeah.
Who sponsored this change? Was it the Civics Committee?
It was UTA.
No, the change to the Constitution.
Yeah, it was UTA.
Right. So what we might need to do then is
No, so the change to the Constitution that takes this 3 months out. Who sponsored that?
I'm not sure what you mean specifically by sponsoring.
Well,
but
if the Constitution's been rewritten, right, or been amended, it must have been under the auspices of somebody. Who was the person? Who was the body that took that process on? Because they're the ones I want to take behind the bike shed with the rubber mat, with the rubber hose. Okay, because that basically
It was a lot of people. It was a lot of people here.
Yeah, I know that, but the point is that whoever was responsible for it, right? They should have talked to people. You know, to take us. All I'm saying is to destroy the security. They've created potential rapid changes, which are going to cause instability in the system.
Maybe I can just add like that's obviously my interpretation as well as what Thomas had reviewed. So might be best to review the new text just to make sure I haven't misrepresented that.
There's two things. One is I remember months ago reviewing bits of the Constitution, right, and all the rest of it, and asked to review the effects of changes. I never saw it. Right, I never saw the 3 months being removed.
Okay, I may have let me double check that.
Make sure you're not, let's make sure, because if the 3 months isn't there, UTAR can't submit it until after that. The blue line is the earliest we can submit it.
Or anyone can submit it.
Anyone can submit it.
It doesn't have to be us who's submitting it. Okay. So I think we've got an action I wasn't expecting, which is to review the constitutional changes. Now, I would have expected to at least have been notified that changes were being proposed, particularly changes that could have an effect on the technical operation of the chain. So, there's clearly some issue here with the way the governance system is working. Yeah. And if what we do need to be aware of is that if there are major changes that could affect security, sustainability, etc., that people are made very well aware of the risk they've now introduced into the operation of Cardano.
Okay, so that the text I'm seeing here is fine. That's not changed, is it, from the previous constitution?
My understanding, Neil, is that my understanding, Neil, is that the parameter committee should have the responsibility for reviewing the guardrails. So the parameter committee should have been involved in discussion of any guardrail changes.
I remember doing this months back, right? And okay, they've changed 3 months into 90 days, right? That's not a problem.
That's my bad, yeah.
Is that your bad?
I think I searched 3 months.
Right, right.
Sorry.
The point is, so therefore, if UTAR submits this before that date, it will be breach of that. Because it is not a severity 1 or severity 2 networking or technical discussion.
That's 71.
Yeah, the 3 months was what the security researchers said, and the reason I'm saying 3 months rather than 90 days is because it's easier then to track on a human calendar basis, Ryan. So
I don't mind that. I mean, what I'm just saying is, if UTAR submits it before that date, it'll be a non-constitutional change. Because this is not a SEV 1 or SEV 2 problem, and there hasn't been. It's not a network issue, and there hasn't been deep technical discussion about it, right? In the sense, right? So I think the point is, I think UTAR needs to be said. Yeah, we totally want to change this. This is a timeline because of the Constitution.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned by the principle that the parameter committee wasn't informed that there should be a change. There was a proposed change to a guardrail. As far as I know, Alex, it's not been considered, right? And they could be.
I don't think there is a change to the guardrail. That's what I'm saying.
No, there is a change to the guardrail. It's gone from 3 months to 90 days.
I see. It's gone from 2 months to 90 days, right? Okay, right.
And that should have been notified to the parameter committee. Alex, go ahead.
It's still pertaining to Ryan's update on the timelines. If you still want to discuss Constitution, please do. Can I jump back?
Yeah, let's jump back.
When did we plan the Plutus execution limits part 2 governance action?
Are we? Yeah.
Thank
it's,
you. All right.
it's an
May.
approximate time, Alex.
Yeah, I think we discussed, and Kevin, please correct me. We'd want the mainnet upgrade to happen, and then hopefully some time to elapse to make sure that there was no critical issues, and then we could proceed with further governance actions, further parameter changes. Sorry.
Yeah. So yes, that's to allow. So what we need to do is we need to allow sufficient time after the hard fork has passed to allow any changes there to stabilize, Alex. So
Was there? I'm remembering a line, but I don't know if it's relevant for this parameter that says that two governance actions that relate to each other must follow each other closely. That's like by far not the wording, the exact wording. Let me search for that.
there's a wording that sufficient time must elapse to allow the effect of the previous change to be considered.
That wording exists, but the opposite also exists.
But yeah, so we can check the wording, but what we want to do if it is where parameters are closely related, then they may be changed together. But that otherwise we want to make independent changes to parameters, Alex, as far as possible, so we can determine the effect of making independent changes on the network operation. We can check the exact text there, assuming nobody's changed it, of course.
I can search in the Constitution if you know like a specific word, or if you know where it is.
Yeah, I'm doing exactly that right now too.
Okay.
Yeah. So when they changed this parameter, the guardrail, did they correctly add a new guardrail?
You mean like labeling it?
It should be 04B, not 04A, if they're changing.
No, it's still labeled 04A.
Okay.
Yeah.
The whole point was the Constitution was supposed to be immutable, right? And what this does is it destroys the mutability, because now there are two versions of this guardrail.
Exactly.
It's version dependent.
Unfortunately, I realize it's a small change, right? But basically, all of this effort we went to try to do all of this immutability and all the rest of it, right? I don't think the Constitution's constitutional, is what I'm about to say. And if it's broken the rules, it's broken the rules, right? I'm not being nasty, but I'm just saying we put it all together to try and satisfy everybody, and then come there anyway. Yeah. So we need a diff of the changes, if someone can provide that, because there could be some significant changes that have just been brought in. And one of the reasons for having the guardrails labeled differently for each version was so you could see any changes that have been made, and you could track exactly which changes applied to which version of the Constitution. So there isn't, as Neil's saying, there's an immutability principle that's being broken by whoever's drafted this version of the Constitution. Okay. Should we conscious of time? Should we move on? It sounds like we might. Well, hopefully nothing bad has happened with these changes, but we absolutely will need to review them to determine that.
I have a small interlude between topics, maybe. Just I saw like this very nice kind of time framework now. We're kind of we're in, right, with these parameter changes and this intra-era hard fork, exactly. Maybe I just want to do a very quick temperature check around people here. Like, what is your, like, we will have the intra-era hard fork now next couple of weeks. And what is the appropriate time in between that one and the next one, which I think would be an inter-era hard fork? Of course, the hard fork working group will need to kind of pick that up, and we want to kind of establish coordination and scope determination and whatnot. But what's your kind of order of magnitude kind of time in between hard forks, just within the framework we just saw?
Yeah, so this is going to be a topic for the hard fork working group, as you say, Sebastian. So what we were proposing was that we move to a situation where we had collection points. Certain points in the year would be possible for hard fork to find those. This one is the last one that should break that trend. So what we could imagine was something like 3 to 4 possible points. So that would avoid having too frequent hard forks. I wouldn't expect there to be a hard fork in 2 adjacent collection points. Only incredibly minor changes or in an emergency would you do that. So as a minimum, what I would expect would be 6 months gap between hard forks. Now, in terms of the development for Dijkstra, I'm not completely sure how that's going on. I think it's only just started. So based
I don't want to discuss any contents. Okay, so you're saying earliest October. That's your opinion, or maybe your temperature check. And Alex says depends on who you ask. I'm asking you individually and just very roughly, right? What's your opinion, personal, and not really to be setting anything. It's just about what is the room temperature here about this?
I think it's unlikely to be as early as October, Sebastian, based on the development status and the timelines to enact a hard fork. The developer team would need to be development complete.
Yeah, I think Sebastian is asking a different question. Assume that wasn't the constraint, right? You know, what's the maximum the minimum intergap that you'd expect to see if everything was working perfectly? And I think you're going to need at least 3 months from having done a hard fork to let everything settle, right? It's preferably 6 months before you make any big changes, right? Mm-hmm. Because some of these things take months to play out.
If you had the code complete for the next hard fork at the point you were progressing,
then you might be able to do that. What I'm saying, if you change something, it takes money. I'd want the system to run solidly, all the rest of it, the kinks found, because there's always, right? I'm just thinking of all the things that have gone wrong in the past that you would have baked into the, sometimes you want to do a fix, whatever, you don't want to bake them in. So I think it's going to be, you're not going to see more than 2 a year, ever. That's what I'm saying.
But in normal situations.
Ever.
No,
right?
no,
unless there's an emergency going on.
Unless an emergency.
I think it should be a reasonable balance between letting things settle after a hard fork and not annoying people that they're again having to go through a big change that they have to test their systems through, because hard forks are relevant changes in Web2 infrastructure or in companies that integrate nodes and work with that. And if you're hard forking every 3 months, they will say, goodbye, Cardano. This is annoying. Obviously, we can't wait with Dijkstra for 2 years. So the truth is somewhere in between 3 months and not annoying people. Personally, I aim at end of autumn, November.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for all the responses so far.
Yeah, but I suspect, Sebastian, that autumn is probably going to be too soon based on the development. So in practice,
yeah,
maybe too soon.
Yeah.
I mean, might be.
I'm very much on your. We discussed this, Kevin, right, in September, right? So ideally, it's not like we discuss times in between. We have an opinion about the minimum time in between, but it's rather that's the points in time of the year where we could have a hard fork if we have prior enough, early enough, all the things which go in there and enough time to kind of roll it out, right? And if you say it's like maximum, like these 4 slots in the year, autumn, early in the year, early about every quarter, avoiding holidays, then we should have actually everything ready for the autumn one soonish, right? Or in summer. That will probably not make the mark. So that's why it will roll over to the next candidate. And if this one is not, then it's roll over to the next one. So in my opinion, it would also be, we should target like times in the year and have appropriate lead time ahead of this, plus discussion what goes in it, right? With like really big time ahead of it. But I think we're not actually much far apart. I believe everyone is on the same page here, really. That's not earlier than 6 months and maybe before 2 years, but somewhere in between. Yeah.
Great. So I think it sounds to me as if we're converging on an opinion here, and to concretize the timelines. If we were going to be hard forking in autumn, we would need development to be completed. Given that this will be a new era and a relatively large change, we would need development to be completed roughly in the June timescale. So that's not a lot further development from today.
Yeah. And so this will probably rule out that date, for example. But yeah, I think further discussion should happen in the hard fork working group as soon as we have the immediate thing figured out, right? I just wanted to kind of read the room a bit. Thanks.
Possibly sooner, Sebastian. Possibly sooner. Great. So we're at time. We've got a few more points. So as I said, TSC operational budget, we've scheduled a second discussion call at 1600 UTC today, so we can continue. We can start the discussion there. 2025 budget proposals. It's just a heads up from the ISC to say that things are progressing there, and I'm informed that they're anticipating having the mechanisms ready by March 26. So there may be, so that is going to put pressure on various parties to have set out the process in advance. I think one of the things that's incredibly important is that the proposals this time are properly evaluated. We don't get the kind of chaos that we had last year with the very short timelines and the lack of professional evaluation, lack of technical evaluation of the submitted proposals. But I'll keep you advised as to what is happening there. And that, of course, impacts into what we are requesting ourselves in terms of operational budget. But increased professionalization here is, I think, important. Hard fork status update going to be covered next week. But just quickly, Sebastian, 10.7.x might take longer to release than we were expecting. So two weeks to have a release candidate would seem to be fairly optimistic from where we are at this point in time, but we'll find that out next week. People yesterday were saying that a month is more likely. Okay, so not wanting to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the current status. Meeting time. We previously discussed this, and we'd agreed to try to avoid the Laos monthly meeting. So if we moved this meeting back to start at 1500 from next week, that will allow people who want to attend the Laos meeting, which is going to happen immediately before it, Sebastian, as I understand. And then and then allow this meeting to proceed as well. So does anyone object to us moving the meeting time and publicising that? Okay. I won't be here, which I think is the next item on the agenda. So someone else will need to prepare the agenda and chair the meeting next week. So do we have a volunteer for that? I saw Neil's lips moving, but now he's turned his camera off.
I would if I would not be chairing a meeting just 1 hour before, so maybe somebody else can pick it up.
Alex, you're shaking your head. Is that you don't want to do it, or
I can't even do it.
not even do it?
If a conflicting meeting, then we move it forward.
Someone will need to prepare an agenda out of band, and someone will need to chair the meeting. We can do that. We don't need to do this in session if nobody's willing to step forward, but we will need to sort it out before the next meeting. I'm afraid I'll be completely unable to do any of the business next week. I'm completely occupied. Okay, Vice Chair we've mentioned before. So again, this is related. Bosco is desperately seeking nominations. We really need to get that sorted out.
I think we will have same response, same stairs as we had for the previous topics.
Yeah,
I mean,
but proceeding without a vice chair isn't a good situation.
You will see, right? People not volunteering for preparing the agenda because it would mean they become effectively the vice chair, right? You see?
Well, it at least gives an experience of being
Yeah.
being vice chair. It's not so frightening, guys. It's relatively easy. And Bosco can help prepare the agenda for next week.
Yeah, sure, that could be done.
Okay, Bosco, you've put on Slack connectivity for TSC members. This is basically an issue that one or two members have had. Understand that Intersect is dealing with that in the background, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're speaking about Slack issues?
Yes, Slack issues.
Yeah. So we have reinstated UDI, but I'm going to check if any of you, or let's say in other words, does any of you have any kind of a trial license on Slack? Any of you TSC members? Do you know? As recently we had issues with Leandros, like last week, and this week with UDI about their licenses expiring for Slack. So that's yeah, and also
okay. So if anyone's having problems with Slack connectivity, please inform Bosco if they can. Bosco, I assume the best way is to use your email address. So maybe you could circulate that so that we have that in case there are any connection problems, connectivity problems.
True. Just one question. Out of my ignorance, why there are two channels? Is there a specific need, or because it would make things easier if it was one? If it is two, so just asking.
Yes, the reason for having two is that sometimes there are issues which only voting members should be discussing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there needs to be a voting members channel, but obviously there are then other things which are public, which should be open to general community members.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is just to avoid to allow first of all, to allow voting members the opportunity to participate in things which are required for voting, where we're required to have a vote on, for example, and secondly, so we can deal with anything which is confidential. But still make sure that any non-confidential issues are properly discussed. So,
I get it.
so, for example, when we're preparing the agenda, there might be confidential issues, and we might need to filter those before discussing those in the open channel. But the agenda we always publish on the open channel.
Okay, I'm trying to listen to you and follow text as well on the.
We had discussions about Discord a long time ago, Tex, and we determined not to use it for various reasons. As a closed channel, as an open channel, I'm not too bothered. I personally hate Discord, or rather, Discord personally hates me. I can never get into it.
Okay, let's sort it out. It doesn't need to be this much of a conversation right now, this moment today. So I think we have that conversation in 15 minutes from now on the. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, on the operational budget, right? So I mean, you guys, right? So I would suggest a break if there is nothing else. Even though I'm not the chair, I'm just being mindful of time.
No, I'm going to call the meeting to a close unless there are any other items that anyone wishes to raise with us. So thank you for interesting and exciting meeting. Bossy, can we take a record of Marcus's issue so we have that to put onto the agenda next week?
Yep. I'll take care of it out of the meeting notes and everything else. So I will add it here in the proper way. So whoever takes responsibility for chairing, we will have it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Fine.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.